all of our recent elections have turned on a relatively small number of votes in a relatively small number of swing states. And I'm guessing that this election will fit into the same pattern. Polls show that Trump has an edge over Biden. If I were to put money on the table, I would bet on Biden for the following reason. Trump is having a lot of difficulty getting beyond his voter base. His voter base is primarily whites without a college education. They represent still around 42% of the American electorate. But he can't win the White House with them alone. He needs to work from that 42% and then appeal to moderate Republicans and independent voters. And so far, he hasn't done a very good job of doing that. And in the 2022 midterms and in the off-cycle elections last year, backers of Trump, America First Republicans, didn't do well. And that is in part because of abortion. This is an issue that is really getting a lot of women to vote, to register, to participate in ways that they did not before. I also think that Trump is probably going to get crazier as we get closer to the election because of the legal cases that will come closer and closer, and because of these huge penalties that are being imposed on him, right? This is a guy whose sense of self-worth is intimately tied to his wealth. That wealth is being threatened by, millions and millions of dollars in penalties that the courts are imposing. And so my best guess is that this election is going to be won primarily by white women in suburban America. And in the end of the day, I don't think they're going to vote for Trump because he's too out there for their zone of comfort. Biden's vulnerabilities are his age, the war in Gaza, and immigration. They're significant liabilities. He's going to have trouble in the Arab American community. He's going to have trouble winning Black men and Latino men who have been moving into the Republican column. And so in many respects, I think it'll come down to turnout on the Democratic side and this issue of white women voters in suburban America. Americans often vote on likability. And if you say, who do I want to have over for dinner? Who do I want to have a beer with? Biden comes out on top. Biden is a man of decency. Biden can walk down any main street in America and fit in. That's not true of Trump. Trump is a rock star among a certain segment of the American electorate, but I think for many Americans, he's not the kind of guy that you want to have over for dinner. Let me conclude with just a comment on the economy. The economy is doing well, low unemployment, reasonably high growth, inflation coming down, wage growth at the lower end of the income spectrum. Biden is not getting the kind of bump that he should. And I think there are two reasons. One, general discomfort with the state of the world. You wake up in the morning, you pick up the paper, you look at the front page, and you say, oh my God, everything is upside down. And it is upside down. And that makes voters say, I want something different. And then the other factor that I think is important here, and it's probably the most important factor in my mind, is the cost of living. Rent, eggs, bread, milk, coffee, everything has gone way, way up. Yes, inflation has come down, but prices have not come down. My car insurance has doubled in the past few years. My home insurance has doubled in the past few years. I'm okay, right? I've got two jobs. My wife is a full-time federal employee. But if I were making $14 an hour at Amazon or Walmart, I would be a very unhappy camper. And that to me is the core of the problem. Gasoline, a month ago I filled up the tank. It was 309 a gallon. It's now 380 a gallon. These kinds of day-to-day issues, I think, are really going to have a big impact on the election. Final comment. To me, these are in some ways the challenges of our time. I'm much more worried about the internal threat to Western democracy than I am about Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping. And I'm worried about it not just here in the United States, but in Europe, where maybe the center will hold in France and Germany, maybe it won't. But I do think that we need to have a collective conversation about income in the digital era, about how to make sure that working Americans are earning a living wage, are able to make ends meet. I think Biden was on the right road with Build Back Better, getting infrastructure into the American heartland, free college education, help with elderly care and child care. A lot of that didn't pass Congress. But it seems to me that this is in some ways a much more important conversation than what's going on outside the West and the nature of threats that are external.